The moment Marcus Jordan's eyes met Victoria Chen's through that half-open door, he knew his carefully constructed life was about to crumble. But what happened next would prove that sometimes the worst mistakes lead to the greatest blessings. Marcus had exactly 17 minutes. 17 minutes before he needed to pick up his daughter Emma from kindergarten, 17 minutes to finish cleaning the executive floor of Chen Technologies, and 17 minutes before his entire world would change in ways he never imagined possible. The single father of 5-year-old Emma had been working as a night janitor for 3 years, ever since his wife Sarah passed away from cancer. The medical bills had destroyed their savings, forcing Marcus to sell their house and move into a cramped one-bedroom apartment on the wrong side of San Francisco. He worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and washing dishes during the day, just to keep Emma fed, clothed, and in a decent school. Tonight, he was running behind schedule. The day shift manager had called in sick, leaving Marcus to cover both the lower floors and the executive suites. His supervisor had been crystal clear: finish by 6 p.m., no exceptions, no excuses. One more strike and he'd be fired. Marcus pushed his cleaning cart faster down the polished hallway, his worn sneakers squeaking against the marble floor. The executive wing was usually empty by this time, dark and silent like a cathedral. He'd cleaned CEO Victoria Chen's office dozens of times but had never met her. She was a legend in the building, a self-made billionaire who'd built her tech empire from nothing, known for her brilliant mind and notoriously private nature. He approached her office suite, knocked twice out of habit, heard nothing, and used his master key to enter. The outer office was immaculate as always, but he noticed something unusual: a light glowing from beneath the door to her private changing room. High-powered executives like Ms. Chen often had private spaces with showers and wardrobes for quick changes between meetings. Marcus assumed she'd forgotten to turn off the light. He'd just flip it off and continue his work. He opened the door, and time seemed to freeze. Victoria Chen stood before a full-length mirror in business slacks and a bra, her back to him, completely unaware of his presence. But it wasn't the accidental intrusion that made Marcus's breath catch. It was the massive surgical scars crisscrossing her back and the thick bandage visible on her side. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Marcus stammered, immediately averting his eyes and backing toward the door. "I thought the light was on. I didn't mean." Victoria spun around, her face going pale with shock and then flushing with anger and humiliation. She grabbed a robe and clutched it to her chest. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" "I'm Marcus, the janitor." "I'm so sorry, Ms. Chen. I knocked. I didn't hear anything. I just thought I'd turn off the light." His voice was shaking, his hands raised defensively. "I'm leaving right now. I'm so sorry." "Wait." Her voice was sharp, commanding. She'd pulled on the robe now, tying it tightly. Her face was unreadable, her dark eyes studying him intensely. "You saw." Marcus kept his eyes on the floor. "I didn't see anything, ma'am. I didn't mean to see anything. I swear I'll forget. How long have you worked here?" The question caught him off guard. 3 years, ma'am." "Marcus, you said." "Marcus what?" "Jordan, ma'am." Victoria was silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice had changed, softer, but carrying a weight that made Marcus's chest tighten. "The scars. You saw the scars." He didn't know what to say. Lying seemed wrong, but acknowledging it felt like a violation. "Ma'am, I promise you, I would never." "I have cancer," she said abruptly. "Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. I had surgery 3 weeks ago. Nobody knows except my doctors." She laughed, a brittle sound with no humor in it. The great Victoria Chen, brought down by her own body. Ironic, isn't it? I can build billion-dollar companies but can't fix myself. Marcus finally looked up at her, and what he saw broke his heart. Behind the perfectly tailored clothes and the reputation of being a ruthless businesswoman stood a scared, lonely woman facing death alone. "My wife died of cancer," he heard himself say. "Breast cancer. 2 years, 3 months, and 16 days ago." Victoria's expression crumbled. She sank onto the chair behind her, suddenly looking much smaller than her reputation. "I'm sorry." "So am I." Marcus took a tentative step forward. "Ma'am, I know it's not my place, but you shouldn't be alone. Not with something like this. Do you have family? Friends?" She shook her head. "I have business associates. Competitors. People who want something from me." I built my empire by being tough, by never showing weakness. If word got out, she looked up at him, and he saw tears threatening to spill. I'd be finished. Stockholders would panic. The board would force me out. Everything I've built would collapse. Marcus understood isolation. He'd felt it every day since Sarah died, navigating parenthood alone, pretending everything was fine when he was drowning. I won't tell anyone, he said quietly. You have my word. Why would you keep my secret? I could have you fired for this intrusion. Because everyone deserves kindness when they're suffering, Marcus said simply. Because my wife would have wanted me to be the kind of person who helps, not hurts. And because being strong doesn't mean being alone. Something shifted in Victoria's face. She studied him for a long moment, this janitor in his worn uniform who'd accidentally stumbled into her most vulnerable moment, and she made a decision that would change both their lives. Stay, she said. Just for a minute. Tell me about your wife. So Marcus stayed. He told her about Sarah's laugh, about how she'd fought until the very end, about Emma and the hole her mother's death had left. And Victoria listened, really listened, in a way that suggested she'd forgotten what it felt like to have a genuine human connection. When he finally looked at his watch, panic shot through him. I'm sorry, I have to go. My daughter, I'm already late picking her up. You have a daughter, Emma. She's 5. He was already heading for the door, anxiety making his movements jerky. I'm so sorry again, Ms. Chen, for everything. Marcus. Her voice stopped him at the threshold. Come back tomorrow. Same time. I'd like to talk more. He turned, surprised. Ma'am, please. The vulnerability in that single word made his decision. Okay. What Marcus didn't know as he raced to pick up Emma was that Victoria Chen had already made a phone call. Not to security to have him fired, but to her personal attorney. Because sometimes kindness in our darkest moments shows us what really matters. The next evening, Marcus arrived to find Victoria waiting in her office, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, so different from her usual armor of designer suits. They talked for hours. She told him about her lonely childhood, her drive to succeed, and her terror of dying alone and unmourned. He told her about juggling 2 jobs, about Emma's upcoming 6th birthday that he couldn't afford to celebrate properly, about the weight of being both mother and father. A friendship formed in those stolen evening conversations, unlikely, genuine, and healing for them both. Victoria began to see that her wealth and power were meaningless without human connection. Marcus reminded her that vulnerability wasn't weakness but courage. 3 months later, Victoria made an announcement that shocked the business world. She was stepping back from daily operations to focus on her health, and she was launching a foundation dedicated to supporting working parents dealing with medical crises, fully funded with $50 million from her personal fortune. The foundation's first recipient was a single father named Marcus Jordan, who received a full scholarship fund for his daughter's education, medical insurance, and a new job as the foundation's community outreach director. But the greatest gift wasn't financial. Victoria, who'd always faced her battles alone, finally had a friend. And Emma gained an honorary aunt who spoiled her shamelessly and taught her that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Marcus never forgot that moment of accidental intrusion that started it all. Because sometimes our most embarrassing mistakes crack open the doors to our greatest blessings, and sometimes the worst day of your life is actually the first day of everything changing for the better. Victoria beat the odds, went into remission, and lived to see Emma graduate high school years later. And she never stopped being grateful for the janitor who saw her at her most vulnerable and chose kindness over everything else. That's the power of humanity. Sometimes all it takes is one person choosing compassion in a moment when they could have chosen anything else.